Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is KidLee. For those who don't know, I was a longtime beta tester for Star Wars The Old Republic. In the beta, there were a lot of things that were changed in comparison to what we have now. I thought it was time to finally make a video showing some of these changes and how the game might have turned out differently based on some of these. Some of what you are about to see is some of my archived footage or screenshots that I have not released until today. Please note that I did not have the best setup 2+ years ago, so some of this might not be the best quality. The first thing I'm going to talk about is what I like to call the choose your own ability, and this was for companions. So right now in game, if you look at the left gear-based portion of the character sheet, you have got an ear slot, 2 implant slots, the bracer, and then sort of a blank spot, and then you've got your customization. But it didn't always used to be this way. It used to be like this. You'd have an ear, 1 implant, a bracer, and then you can see here there's a blue one. This was actually an ability slot. So what they had in game is a vendor that you could actually go up to, and it would have all of the companions' abilities in this vendor. And you could basically pick any one random ability from any of the companions and put it on a different companion. So for instance, you could take like Mako's field dress, which is a heal, and you could put it on Corso. It basically added just another layer of customization for the companions. And I was really sad that they took this out because I thought it was a really cool idea. I kind of hope one day that they actually put it back in. I mean, you can see from the current character sheet, there's still that blank spot to where they could maybe add something. So, yeah, I just thought that was a really cool one that it's like, shucks. Too bad they removed that because it was a really cool idea. Next up was the extra relic slot. As you can see here, there used to be 3. So I think they probably considered this to be a little bit overpowered. So they ended up removing it and they replaced it with that second implant slot. So that's where that came from. But, you know, baseline stats are stats. So I think that's probably why they did what they did. But yeah, having that third relic slot, you know, having the ability to have, you know, something other, you know, how they have the damage boost, the heal boost, or whatever. Yeah, I think they just considered that to be a little bit overpowered, so they went ahead and removed it. And I think what they ended up with in their final game with the 2 relics, or the 2 implant slots, I should say, that is definitely probably the way to go rather than the 3 relics. Next up, we've got the many variations of custom armor and weapons. The very first build that I played, every single armor and weapon in the game was fully customizable. As you can see here, here's like a green rifle, just as an example. But every single item was fully customizable with, you know, the armorings, the mods, and all that fun stuff. And it was by far my favorite gear system that I had seen throughout all their different variations because it just further allowed for greater customization. And then after that, the next build, they went like all the way to the opposite end of the extreme bar, and they switched over to this, which you can kind of see here. And it was only these gold items were the only ones that you could customize. And then I think at that point, from what I recall, the player base was just freaking out. They're like, how could you go from one extreme all the way to the other? Then they're like, you know, bring it back to the way it was. Which, as you know, they didn't. And then the current system is what they ended up going with the sort of standard, you know, color scheme, the whites, the grays, the greens, the blues, the purples, the orange. Then they still ended up keeping in that gold one, but the gold one is sort of those special items. You know, you pick up those kits and you go to, like, you know, Drummond Cost or Curse On or whatever, and you pick up those kind of crappy items that aren't worth much. But yeah, it's just really interesting to see how they went through the different variations of, oh, let's do everything, then let's do almost nothing, and then they ended up compromising somewhere in the middle and kept changing around their color schemes. But yeah, that original build where everything was customizable, that was the best. And finally, the last thing is the ability to kill off your companions. Now, this is something that kind of had mixed reviews. From a story standpoint, it's something I think a lot of people really wanted to keep in the game. But from a realistic standpoint and a crafting standpoint, it was kind of hard to do because your companions do all the crafting for you. But just, if you don't know the story, it's basically that you had the ability to actually kill off all of your companions originally. And then as you hit level 50, they were going to have a bunch of different companions that you would be able to get. Like the HK-51, even though that was released like way, way later, there was rumors about that for the longest time, even in early beta, because that was going to be sort of the first replacement one that they were going to have in the game, even at launch, which, again, they didn't end up doing. But they ended up having to, you know, they took that out, the killing off companion thing, and they rewrote most of the stories. In some of the stories, you can still see where that option was going to be for killing off the companions. The two that come to my mind as the most obvious are Torian and Quinn. In the Bounty Hunter one, there is, when you first like meet Torian, I think he's like laying on the ground in like a pool of his own blood, and it's like right there. You can choose to either heal him or leave him alone. If you were to leave him alone, he would have died. As far as Quinn, from what I recall, Quinn betrays you, and then right then and there, it's like you're a dead man and you just kill him off, or you can forgive him or whatever. So those are, like I said, those are like the two most obvious that I can think of off the top of my head. I think a lot of the other ones, they just completely rewrote so you don't even notice where the killing off option would have been. But again, that's sort of another level of customization that they ended up taking out. I mean, if they would have had plenty of replacement companions, you know, ready to go, then it's something that they still could have kept. So, something to think about. Something to think about indeed. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I think that will go ahead and do it for this video. I hope this video gave you guys some insight on some of the cool stuff that they sort of took out of the game. But yep, there you go. So with that being said, everybody keep playing and have fun.